Dear Muslims, dear believers, Assalamu alaikum.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayda salah, hayda salah, hayda falah, hayda falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbi Alameen. Nahmadu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nukilu bihi azza wa jal. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in mubad ayyuha muslimun. That is, praise be to Allah, the guardian, evolver, cherisher, keeper, sustainer of all the worlds, of all the systems of knowledge. We render all praises to Him, and we seek His help, and we ask for His forgiveness. We put our faith in trust in Allah. Mighty and sublime is He. I bear witness and give open testimony that there is nothing in creation worthy of worship except Allah and Allah alone, the one and only. There is none like unto Him. And I bear witness that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Allah's servant, messenger, prophet, and guide to all of humanity for all time. We ask Allah's peace, His blessings, His highest exaltations be upon Prophet Muhammad, upon his family, his companions, the righteous, all on us, O Muslims, be peace. We greet you with the best greeting of Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Mubarak. And what follows of this excellent salutation to our Prophet Muhammad, the prayers and the peace be on him. Dear beloved Muslims, dear believers, I advise you as I advise myself to fear Allah, to have taqwa for Allah, to reverence Him and have regard for Him and His creation, and know that He is the best to create, the creator of all. He creates but was never created. We should fear God as He should be feared. We are here on this Salatul Jumat on the best day of the week for the Muslim, but even more so for all of humankind, whether they know it or don't know it. Our responsibility here is to deliver a clear and concise message. Allah inquires of us through Quran, asking the question of mankind, that is both men and women, Am kalak min kairi shayin, am hamu kalakun. Were they created of nothing, or were they themselves the creators? This is Allah asking the question of both men and women. Were you created of nothing? Or did you create yourself? That's the question. When I read that very, and it's actually part of an ayat and not necessarily stand alone, but when I read that sentence from the ayat, there was also some comments there from Yusuf Ali. And what he did was, in those comments, he made a comment relative to the Arabic word of min. It's spelled M-I-N, colloquial men. And he says that that word men can be defined as either by, of, or in. And so when he looked at it and had the discussion, with the reader, he interpreted it to say or ask the question, were they created by nothing? Did they, that is we, come into existence of ourselves? Or was it mere chance that we came into existence? The second was, were we created as mankind out of nothing? Is there not a wonderful seed from which our material growth can be traced as the handiwork of a wise and wonderful creator? That's a question. And when I hear certain language like that, now this wasn't mentioned by Yusuf Ali, of course, but when I hear certain language like that, that sounds like when I hear things like material growth, that sounds like Imam W.D. Muhammad's language that he has oftentimes related to us. And so, and I'm saying that to you to say that as you're reading Quran, outside of the holy month of Ramadan, you have the time to be able to also read the comments. Now, I'm not suggesting to you that you read the comments and you accept Yusuf Ali as your leader because of the comments that he made, but I am suggesting that you read them because it helps you to be able to expand your thought on whatever that ayah or whatever that surah is that you may be reading. But he goes on to say, when you mention were we created as mankind out of nothing, is there not a wonderful seed from which our material growth can be traced as the handiwork of a wise and wonderful creator? Then the question is asked, must we not then seek his will? That is the will of the one who created you. And then the third thing he mentioned is that were we created for nothing? That is, to no purpose. If we were created for a purpose, shouldn't we try and learn what that purpose is by understanding Allah's revelation? And so it is with that sort of background that I want to proceed in this talk today, which is entitled Taking Us Out of Our Nature. Allah says there is a pattern in which we were made. He says, so set your face steadily and truly to the faith. Establish Allah's handiwork according to the pattern on which he has made mankind. No change let there be in the work by Allah. That is the standard religion. But most among mankind understand not. Or to put this another way for us, and this is from Quran, but I went to a different Quran in order to get a different interpretation of the same ayah. Stand firm in your devotion to the upright faith, the nature made by Allah, the one on which mankind is created. And never should you try to change Allah's creation, in parentheses, or religion. That is the standard of true faith, but most among mankind do not know. It was narrated by Abu Hurairah that the Prophet ﷺ said, people are of different natures. The best among them in the pre-Islamic period are the best in Islam, provided they comprehend the religious knowledge. You see the best amongst the people in this respect are those who hate it most. And the respect that he's talking about in parentheses is ambition of ruling. So when he talks about ambition of ruling, are those who hate it most. And you see the worst among people is the double-faced person who appears to those with one face and to others with another face. A hypocrite. And it was our leader and teacher, the Mujaddid, Imam W.D. Muhammad, who said this: they have learned that habit can take over mind and conscience, and all they have to do is give us habit for a long enough time, and that habit will dominate and put out the light of intelligence. The habit will rule where intelligence once ruled. So they give us habits to condition our mind to accept more and more immortality. That is a direct quote from Imam W.D. Muhammad. So as we are pursuing this subject on taking us out of our nature, I wanted to give us that ayat from the Quran in order to establish the basis, where Allah has said, were they created of nothing, or were they themselves the creators? That's the foundation from which we're working from. That's the question when we start talking about the nature of the human being that I want you to use as the underpinning for everything else that I want to build with this talk from that point. Because at some point, I want you to get it into your head if you don't already know. And perhaps this is not the audience that I need to be addressing this to, but whoever might hear this, you did not create yourself. And you cannot recreate yourself. Procreation is one of these words that you could consider to be what they call an oxymoron. Because you don't have the ability to be able to create yourself. Now, I'll accept the fact that there are scientists all over the world who are trying to do, and some who have succeeded at doing just that. But remember, the title of this talk, the basis of the talk, is taking us out of our nature, taking us away from that in which God created us. And then you're going to find as we go along that this nature that we have been taken out of is a very nature that we no longer are able to recognize some of you as being human beings. And there are a group of people who understand this sort of concept, and they will refer to other people that look and walk and talk and they see and they hear and they speak. They'll refer to them as aliens because they're acting outside of the nature in which God created them. It was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad who simply put, I don't know how much simpler it can be put to any intelligent person when asked, what is a Muslim? And his simple answer is that a Muslim is a righteous person. And I'm paraphrasing that. But that's a simple sentence. Your righteous self is a Muslim. That's the nature of human beings. That's how you were born. Now, this was narrated by Abu Hurairah. I want to give you some support for this. This is a hadith that you have heard in various forms. Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, every child is born with a true faith of Islam, or to worship none but Allah alone. But his parents convert him to Judaism, Christianity, or manganism, and I'll get to that a little later. Manganism, as an animal delivers a perfect baby animal, do you find it mutilated? And then Abu Hurairah recited the holy verses, the pure Allah's Islamic nature, that is true faith of Islam, worshiping none but Allah, with which he has created human beings. No change let there be in the religion of Allah, that is joining none with worship with him. That is the straight religion, but most men know not. So after Muhammad, the prayers and the peace be on him, made the comment, or he made the this reported hadith that every child is born with a true faith of Islam, but his parents convert him to Judaism, Christianity, or manganism. And manganism is described, actually it's the and I hesitate to call it a religion, but it was an ancient religion that was called Magin, Magin, and it is a religion that, amongst other things, involved itself around sorcery and witchcraft, or what in modern day would be considered to be witchcraft. However, because it does sound like the word magic, from the research that I did, there's no connection, even though it sounds similar. These researchers could find no connection between this practice of magin, M-A-G-I-N, and the word magic. Even though, when they tell you what magin is, it is an ancient religion that involved, sorcery and witchcraft types of practices. And it was, it existed around in the mid-500s, if you want to go back that far. I mean, some of us can't go back past the 1700s. Now I'm talking about going back into the 500s. All right, but if you want to go, but this was the kind of research that, by Allah's grace, I had time to do in order to try to make this as thorough as possible. But at the same time, I don't want to overburden you with everything that I learned, because it was for me. Now I've got to try to give it to you in more simplistic terms. Okay? And so in doing that, I want to also share with you, as we continue on taking us out of our nature, I want to continue with the second part to put this into its proper perspective. Let's pray for forgiveness. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasul. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Once again, I greet you with the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. The question is, when we review this whole notion of taking us out of our nature, I want to, let me begin by saying this, quoting this to you from Quran. Allah says in Quran, by the fig and the olive in the Mount of Sinai, in this city of security, we have indeed created man in the best of molds. Then do we abase him to be the lowest of the low, except such as believe and do righteous deeds, for they shall have a reward unfailing. What then can, after this, make you deny the last judgment? Is not Allah the wisest of judges? And Allah, the mightiest, speaks the truth. In this surah, it could be argued symbolically that Allah addresses all of the great religions, and that is those religions in their purest form. When Allah says, by the fig, it, when it says, I'm sorry, where Allah refers to, for example, the olive, when he refers to the olive, he refers to the fig, he refers to the Mount of Sinai, and then he refers to the city of security. You could look at those four things individually and determine that they all have a connection to one of the practicing religions in their purest form. Now, the easiest one, of course, for us to pick out as Muslims is the city of security. You know, so if this was a multiple choice test and there was a fig and an olive and the city of security and the Mount of Sinai, and someone asked you to associate that with a religion, the correct answer would be the city of security. That is how Mecca is described. You could then, of course, make an argument that Judaism could be associated with the Mount of Sinai. That leaves you with two, the fig and the olive. The olive you could associate with Isa ibn Mary, that is Jesus, the son of Mary, because there are several references in the Injil in its purest form, where there are references always made to the olive. You know, his feet were bathed in olive oil. You know, the oil anoints you. I mean, you pick the one that you want, but there's always a reference to an olive. There are some who would argue that the fig could be associated with Buddhism. And it is, as it is said, that Buddha reached nirvana under a fig tree, what they called a bo tree, B-O, a bo tree. And that he, reached nirvana under this fig tree. Now, I've always heard this word nirvana, but never understood, what it really meant. And so I looked it up. And in this instance, nirvana refers to the stillness of mind after the fires of desire, aversion, and delusion have been finally extinguished. Nirvana literally means blown out. So when you think about those who practice the religion of Buddhism, they're always into these chants and meditation, and it's all designed to kind of clear the mind. Well, to put it in its proper context for this talk, the reason that the fig was associated with Buddha was because he supposedly had these visions and reached, this point of, nirvana up underneath of a fig tree. But that's not the end of the story, because there have been others who have associated the tree that was in the garden, the tree that was forbidden, as being a fig tree. And the argument is made relative to this fig tree because the fig, when it is properly cultivated, remember that, we're talking about taking you out of your nature. When that fig tree is properly cultivated, it produces a fruit that is filled with seeds. And any one of you that have heard any of my talks, I always refer to seeds as being the first process for growth and development. So it's not hard to argue that this fig could be referring to our prophet Adam. The possibility exists. But the more interesting thing to me about this fig is if you do not cultivate the fig tree, you're not going to automatically get figs full of seeds. Left unchecked, a fig will produce nothing but worms and maggots. Don't take my word for it. You look it up. That's what I did. That's how I found out. And that helped to substantiate the basis of this talk about taking us out of our nature. Because if we don't have the proper cultivation, we're going to end up in an immoral situation. I mean, what is more despicable than a maggot? I mean, you know, that you could think of a couple of things that's a little bit more despicable than that, but I think you get the point. And so left unchecked, human beings have the propensity to go down the wrong path, to do the wrong things that are despicable, that go against their very nature as human beings, the very nature in which God created them. And God himself has said that you were created for no other reason than to worship him. That's it. You don't even have to look for anything else. Well, is there any other reason, sir? No, there's not. That's it. Worship God. Well, how do I do that? Well, first thing you do is don't put anything else in front of him. Nothing. Don't start worshiping something else. And then, and because at its base, every religion has that. Every single one of them. If you look at the revelation that was given to Musa, on the mount, you'll not have no other God before me. Same difference. There's no difference there. And so we have to make sure that we always keep ourselves in a natural posture, the one in which Allah created us. I want to read you something from the Mujaddid. And this is from one of the Imam's talks, where he highlighted animal instincts protected by God. He said, science can reach us at our lowest primitive level by taking us outside our nature. The human mind can be taken down to become the lowest of the low, even lower than that of a brute animal, whatever you imagine that to be, because it is not in the intellect, in the nature of that beast to follow any discipline outside its instinctive mode, that is its nature, that Almighty God placed in that animal. But through chemicals, that mold can be changed, that instinct altered. But that animal taken outside of its nature is a dead beast walking. Through sexual intercourse, it may be passed on, but eventually that animal does too. And there is no more to be gathered or taken away by the other animals, who by instinct stay away from the diseased beast. That is the one who's received the chemicals. But if you do the same to a human being, they'll live. Not only will they pass it on, but this mutant gene, this new strain of human being, will pass on their degenerative behavior to the society until they can make the whole living society like them. Where the animal dies, where the other beasts stay away, keep their offspring away, don't make any effort to pattern their behavior after this altered animal, human beings, on the other hand, rush headlong into a pattern of duplication, of adopting the same behavior, creating carbon-copied copycats. Now I had to slow down because you're saying carbon-copied copycats. Try saying that like, Peter Piper picked the pepper. But I mean, that has really, what the Imam said there in, I don't know, it might have been 2 or 3 paragraphs, that really hit home for me. That was hitting the nail right on the head. And I really could have just said all of that after I read the few ayats and some hadiths from the Prophet, the prayers and the peace be on him. I could have read those 2 paragraphs, sat down, and we could have been done. Okay, because that explains to us how we're taking us out of our nature. And so because I want you to take that away, I'm not going to make a whole lot of commentary after this, because I can't give you anything any better. The only thing I'm left to give you now are examples, and they're too numerous, which means we don't really have time to deal with them. And so, to the extent that you want to consider this to be a short talk, I mean, so be it. But it's more important to me that what I want you to take away from this is that there are more opportunities for any one of us, both Muslim and non-Muslim, to be taken out of our nature. That's what I want us to take away from this. That's what I want us to be careful of, to be mindful of, to always make the first presumption that you're being tricked until you can prove that you're not being tricked. And I mean, that's I think is the safest way for any one of us to proceed, whether we're Muslim or non-Muslim. But I do want to encourage us to look at those things. I want you to the extent that you can, to focus on those things. And remember, I'm going to leave you with 2 quotes from 2 different people that you may or may not recognize their names. One is from, I believe he is of Russian descent, who made a simple statement that said that culture is freedom. The other you may recognize from Albert Einstein, who said this. Albert Einstein said that everybody is a genius. But if you were to judge a fish by its ability to be able to climb a tree, it will spend its entire life thinking it was stupid. Let me read that again. Everybody is a genius. That's you, me, everybody is a genius. But if you were to judge a fish by its ability to be able to climb a tree, that fish will spend its entire life believing it is stupid. Now, I want you to recall that, juxtaposed next to taking us out of our nature. Let's make dua. Our Lord, they say, let not our hearts deviate now that you have guided us. Grant us mercy from your presence. Keep us away from those who wish to do us harm, the jealous ones as they practice their jealousy, and the envious ones as they practice their envy.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu an Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayla salah, hayla salah. Hayla falah, hayla falah. Got to come into salah, got to come into salah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Allahu Akbar. Sami Allahu hamida. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد Allahu Akbar.
Allah.
Sami Allahu Hamida. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Back to the real world. And just a brief announcement, we have some March prayer calendars downstairs because March the new prayer times will be coming in before next Friday.